So in this session, we're going to create a CAD model of a fidget spinner. I'm going to do like a fairly basic shape. But if you guys want to do something like a little bit more interesting, maybe for example, um, you know, that might be a bit overkill, but maybe something a bit like that, or like this, where you've got just something kind of slightly more interesting. Feel free to do that. But I'm going to do like a fairly basic, straightforward one here, and you guys can kind of follow along as best you like. So on Onshape, hopefully you've already kind of set up your system. If not, pause the video and go and get it set up. Just the first thing that you want to make sure is in your preferences area here that you've got that saved as millimeters. Okay, so you might need to do that first. Okay, there's a button there to change to save any changes. Okay, so we want it in millimeters, and once you've done that and saved it, back over here to Onshape. I'm going to create a document, and we're going to call it a fidget spinner, and click OK. So it does take a couple of seconds just for that to load up, and what you'll see is 3 areas basically that we can draw on. Now, it doesn't really matter, but we're going to draw on the top, simply because we're going to be drawing it as a flat thing. It's not necessarily going to be standing up, so it makes more sense to put it on this top surface. So if we come over here to Sketch, and we'll click here on the top surface, that means that we're going to be sketching on this top surface. So we're going to start by drawing the center, and then we're going to draw the center, draw one arm of the fidget spinner, and then from there be able to make a pattern of 3. So from the center, draw it out here. That can be any distance just for the moment, and a second one. So what you've got here is you've got 2 circles that can actually be adjusted if you click on them. So that, again, you can see that it's actually quite easy to do that. So what we actually want to do here is put some dimensions on them. So if I select this tool here to put a dimension on it, and we're going to make it 22 millimeters because that's the size of the ball bearings, the part that makes it actually spin. So that's 22 millimeters. And the outside one, then, you don't want it to be massive. I'm going to go with a diameter of 34. And that just kind of gives you about 6 millimeters between the inner and outside of the 2 parts. That 34 can be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, but kind of somewhere in the range of kind of 30 to 38 millimeters. I wouldn't go making it much bigger than that. And then we're going to draw one arm. So we're basically going to draw like one of the parts that come out here. So using the circle tool, if you come over here, you'll see that there's like a little orange like highlight tool there, just kind of coming from the center of the circle. That just means that's directly above, which is kind of what we want. And again, draw a circle, and it's going to be diameter 22. And we can set a distance between the center point there and the center point here. Again, there's kind of a range of values that you could use here. It could be maybe, again, as small as 32 or as big as 40, but I wouldn't go making it much bigger than that. So I'm going to make it 36 here. And that just kind of gives us a little bit of space. Now, for this, we see like on a lot of these, we've got kind of a circular shape, but if you want, we can either make another circle, or we can we can use the polygon tool, or if you want to play around with some of these tools here to make a sketch or design, please feel free. That would be kind of cool, and I'd be really interested in seeing that. So for example, you could, if you wanted, use a spline, which is like a curving tool. So again, I could put 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe put something like that, and press the escape button. And I could then mirror that, so it's going to be the same both sides. Could do that. That could be one example. If I wanted to do that, that wouldn't be a problem. Or if I just get rid of those for a moment, I could also use here a polygon. Doesn't necessarily matter which one you use here for the inscribed polygon or circumscribed polygon. That just means that basically the dimension that you put, is it on the inside or the outside of the dimension of the part. Play around with it, you'll see kind of how it works. So if I put one in here, and maybe I want to make it just a little bit bigger than what's here. Maybe something a bit like that. And you can see that you can play around with the settings there. I'm just going to have it at 6. So if I want to change that, maybe if I want to make it a pentagon, I could make it 5. But I might need to then play around with some of these settings. Whoop. And again, if you ever get caught out with something moving, you can always press the Control Z button, which is the option to delete something. So I'm going to keep it there as a hexagon, and I can then also put a dimension on that. So if I make that maybe, let's say 30, and I might then need to put something here kind of bridging these two areas. So it could be just a normal straight line, it could be a curve, 3-point arc, a spline, whatever you feel might work. So I'm going to put in a 3-point arc. I'm going to put it from here to here, and just make sure that it looks decent. And I'll do the same here. And just play around with it there a little bit. You may want to zoom in because it's going to be quite difficult. And again, you can put some dimensions on these just to make sure that, because you can kind of see this one is a little bit more concave than this one. So you could put in here just, we can make that 6 millimeters and make that 6 millimeters. And that looks quite good. Now, sometimes, especially with curves and stuff, you end up with these curves not necessarily always coming out black all the time. If that's the case, that's not necessarily the end of the world. The key thing is that kind of the main bulk of the shape around here, and certainly the center circle there, is all black. Okay, but like small things like this, they can be blue. Okay, so just the last stage then, second last stage, is to copy this, because one of the key things with all these fidget spinners is that they have some sort of pattern or some sort of symmetry, because otherwise they don't really flow all that well, do they? So if we come back over here, we're going to use this button here, the circular pattern. It's a circular pattern, and it's so you need to select the things that you want to have in that circular pattern. I also need to select, just make sure that you get all of it. Have a look at the preview does that look correct? And that looks correct to me. Now you can play around sometimes with that, and so for example here, if I wanted to make it a 4-part fidget spinner, I could do that. Or similarly, if I wanted to make a 2-part fidget spinner or keep it as a traditional 3-part fidget spinner, that's up to you. Again, that's something that you can play around with. Once you've done that, click enter, and then click this little green button here, and you will find something a little bit like that. Now, at this moment in time, it's still just a flat shape. We haven't actually done anything, to make it into a fully useful shape. So we're going to use the extrude button, which just kind of gives all of our sketches a little bit of thickness, a little bit of turns it into an actual material. So first thing we're going to do is we need to change it. They're not 25 millimeters thick. They are about 8 millimeters thick. So select 8 millimeters, and basically we're then just going to select the areas that we need. Now make sure that you pick these areas here in the middle as well, because we don't want like them just kind of floating out in midair, basically. So you should hopefully end up with something maybe a little bit like that. That looks correct, and then that should be okay. Now, sometimes it's not uncommon for someone to accidentally leave a part out, or to accidentally kind of forget something or whatever. It's very easy to leave, for example, one of these behind. If that's the case, you can come over here and you can click with 2 fingers on your mouse pad and come over here to edit, and you can then play around with, you can add on additional spaces or whatever. Similarly, you can also come back here and edit your original sketch. So maybe you have looked at it and you've decided, well, actually, I don't want 4 of them. I want just 3 of them. Click enter. It should update there, and it will actually update the extrude for you as well. So that's just kind of a couple of nice little tools there. If you want, then you can just hide these, so that it just looks a little bit neater and tidier. And once you've done that, then press the screenshot button, which is I've actually got it on the Google slide, so you can see the button. You need to press 2 buttons at once, and then just submit that to the classroom. Okay. Any problem